Okay, real sorry about the audio issues in the last episode. I thought that was just a preview issue in my editing software. It's especially unfortunate that it happened in the video that details my roadmap, so let me put that up here for a second. You got it? Okay, cool. Let me mention what's changed recently. I'm swapping the mercenary creature type to just be Fixer, since mercenary is a long word, and the way it's used in Magic is specifically meant to be a Wild West outlaw kind of mercenary, which is fairly different from the way that Fixers function. It's also just more satisfying to use in the set, and since the set is meant to be played alone, synergy with existing Magic cards isn't really needed. Also, I'm going to try and stick a bit harder to the color pie, both in terms of philosophy and in mechanics. I'm still going to bend and occasionally break them, but I was making some fairly big stretches and want to tone that down a bit. I do have some intentional breaks, and some expansions on what certain colors can do that I might talk about later, but for now I want to get into the episode. For these Ruina cards, a lot of the early game enemies had very little in the way of interesting effects, so I'm choosing to focus on multiple simple effects baked into one card, typically through choices. I think this is a good way to cover multiple staple effects in Magic the Gathering, and also to make sure that there's more room for skill expression rather than playing in a predetermined optimal way. I'm introducing some special card types to help out with this, which I'll get to very soon. But before that, let's get into the head librarian. Angela, Pale Librarian, is a fun one, allowing you to exile enemy creatures that die, then cast them as librarians. You don't get the normal color fixing that stealing cards normally get, but you do get color fixing for your colorless mana. Her loyal servant, Roland, is totally colorless, don't worry about it, and is the first of the adventure cards. This is essentially an extra spell you can cast before the creature, sending the creature off on an adventure and then casting the creature itself later. I'll be using adventures a lot for these early game receptions that don't lend themselves to interesting effects, but that should be still represented as something of interest. When an enemy dies, Roland allows you to shrug off the moral consequences and gives you life. His adventure lets you do some card organization based on how high you've leveled your classes. Oh yeah, classes. Let me introduce the other card type to you. Classes are what I'm using to represent the floors of the library. They are enchantments you can pay to upgrade to new levels, gaining new effects. Pretty fitting for the way you enhance floors in the game. For flavor, some floors focus on the abnormalities contained within, and their corresponding ego effects, while others focus on the themes of the floor itself, or on its patron librarian. General Works is an all-rounder with effects that any deck will find handy, but that you'd never really build around. Its first level is just immediate effects, its second allows you to copy spells your opponents cast, and the third freezes all creatures that enter except for your own. Technological Sciences is an odd one. It protects your artifacts and lets you use them as a means to scry for cards you want. Then it protects equipped creatures and lets you draw cards if you swing with a bunch of equipped creatures. Finally, all of your artifacts are now equipment, and give +1/+1, which stacks with any existing equipment effects. I chose this gimmick because I wanted to keep the technology theme with artifacts, and the blunt force aspect of this floor. And since every Abno here either is a machine or uses a weapon, artifacts and equipment being used to bludgeon the enemy to death seemed pretty good. Floor of History is all about the graveyard. It makes your creatures hurt enemies when they die, Then it lets you cast spells cheaper by using spells in the graveyard of the same type. Then you can use lands in your graveyard to counter enemy spells, entangling them in thorns. On to the guests. Backstreet Rats are persistent 1/1s that just keep coming back no matter how much you kill them. You can have 10% of your deck be composed of these guys, a nice balance between the normal limit and an unlimited number. Finn is a legendary little guy who gets stronger if you keep him solo for a while. Overconfidence gives you 2 guys for cheap, but then gives every opponent a guy as well. Brotherhood of Iron lets you use its adventure to charge a creature quite a bit, but stuns that creature. When you use the creature itself, it can discharge to stun any creature it damages. Hook Office has its own fixer, who can display a body to give another creature permanent menace and temporary first strike. It alone isn't much to write home about though, just being a 2/3 with menace. Mass Mutilation is a spree, allowing you to pay extra for different effects, destroying creatures, sacking a creature to draw, and having everyone discard cards. Jack and Pierre are as you'd expect. Jack kills creatures to make them into blood. Pierre turns those blood into food or just eats them then and there. They can partner up as commanders as well, if you'd like. Also, Pierre is a performer because cooking is art. On to Streetlight Office, we've got a couple of cards here. Prepared Mind is another multi-use card, while Unfortunate Escape lets any ally retreat, and draws you a card if another ally left the field this turn. Lulu, however, is the main star. She's not too strong herself, just having a ping effect when she attacks, but later into the game, she can gather 2 allies as her adventure. I don't want to focus too hard on the Zwei, but I do want to show their new splash of blue I'm giving them. Mission Brief lets you untap creatures when you cast on enemy turns, and creatures you cast this way enter with +1/+1 or charge. Walter is boring. Walter gives +1/+1 to your enforcers, and flashes back the Your Shield cards in your graveyard. Scratch That is actually an adaptation of the Brawl card. I just like Scratch That better as a name. Anyway, it lets an ally copy the highest stats among creatures you control, then it fights a dude. Enhancement Tattoos is a community contribution from old reliable Marshall Kylan, being a simple enchantment you can cast from your graveyard. Finally, onto Molar Office, and damn it, Marshall, you're showing me up here. Stay Calm is slightly modified by me, since I felt that Indestructible was a bit much, given the discard effect is pretty good, so I split it into First Strike and Ward 1, which is still protective, but can be worked around. Molar Office can discard your hand to clear out foes. Then, as a creature, will draw you cards if your hand is empty. Synergizes pretty well with other adventures. That's all for this batch, though I did at least want to show off the Floor of Art concept that I had, but wasn't quite fond of. I just didn't really feel like it fit Nextzac. Hell, Nextzac doesn't feel like he fits the color pie much at all, except maybe white, which I feel is also HOD territory, and yada yada, don't want to double up too much in the early whatever. I'll let you guys decide if you like it. As for patron librarians, I do want to do them at some point, but most of them don't have any abilities of their own, so I'll have to work within their personalities, which some of them are kind of lacking in, to be perfectly honest. Anyways, see you all soon for Standard Fare 2, where I'll show off some changes to and expansions of the Fixer Associations.
We're rats. We're the rats. We pray at night, we stalk at night. We're the rats.